Hi, and welcome to the Inventors Arena. I'm Ed, and this is Scott. And today we're going to discuss who you are as an inventor. Scott?
Well, let's start with the fact that everybody is an inventor or has an inventor someplace inside of them. They just need to find that themselves and the problem or solution that they're looking for. So we encourage everybody that has an idea, even if it's just a thought or a spark, to think about that and view that as I could be a potential inventor. Now, historically, and we'll talk a little bit about some geography, some socio-demographic aspects here. We're going to talk mostly about U.S. and Canadian populations right now, but certainly, we could talk about the Asian marketplace where there are a lot of inventors over there as well. But today, we're just going to talk about some socio-demographic aspects of U.S. and Canadian inventors. And let's start with the 18-year-old who has an idea. Something with technology, usually we see a lot of, yes. Might be a video game related. We see that sometimes too. 18-year-olds can be inventors. In fact, they view the world differently than everybody else, and sometimes they have a solution that is very much different than what the marketplace currently has. And that is great. And then you move up and you have what's basically the undergrad and graduate students at universities, 18 or 20, 30, 20 to 30-year-olds, I would guess you would say, 22, 24, that range. They are students at university, oftentimes in STEM programs. They're encouraged to be entrepreneurial, to be engineers, to think about solutions. Their classes basically train them oftentimes to be problem solvers and find solutions. And so we see a lot of younger entrepreneurs and inventors that have come through the university system.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're getting that capstone class, and that really forces you to think.
You've got to do a master's thesis or a dissertation anyway, so you might as well think of a product you can come to market and make money from.
That's right.
Which is good. Absolutely. And then you move up and you get to the 30 to 45-year-old, usually engineer, somebody who has been out in the workplace for a while. They have some experience. They see problems. They see the world through a lens of, I can see a solution, but it's also based upon the knowledge that I have and what I've seen, in the environment.
Yes.
And oftentimes it's out of frustration. This doesn't work anymore. It hasn't worked for years. I'm tired of fooling with it. I'm going to create a solution to this. And all of a sudden, you can put inventor after your name.
That's right. Yeah, so more on demographics. So by way of gender, it's historically been strongly male-dominated, but the females are coming up in the ranks, and we'd really encourage the females. I know some female inventors, and they've made some wonderful inventions, so it'd really encourage that. Now with the race and ethnicity thing, generally, it's a white or Asian thing going on. They're kind of overrepresented, but the other races are coming up too, like the blacks and the Hispanics, and so they're starting to be more contributors in that area too. So that's super exciting. And again, some of that goes back to education and access and mentorship and kind of where you live and so forth. And a lot of it goes to, so you're talking about those STEM folks that have went to school and so forth. That's the science and the engineering and the technology and the math. And generally they're higher earners, and they pass that on to their children by way of conversation, kind of like an immersion thing where, mom comes home or dad comes home from work and says, I was working on this project at the lab today, and we came up with this or that, and these are the problems that we're having, and we're working through it. And, it's probably I know at least in my case, it was the tendency to train your children as in buy them gifts that are kind of teaching them, whether it's building things or, so I think a lot of it comes down to that. So it's kind of like an immersion thing. So, but that certainly doesn't mean, as Scott said, that just because your parents aren't engineers or, doctors or whatever, that you can't go out there and create a medical device or whatever. The Band-Aid was created by somebody, and it's worked real well ever since. So that's exciting.
Yeah. You mentioned the STEM research, the particularly the engineering aspect of it, and that's great. And a lot of inventors come from engineering programs across the United States. I mean, you can look at certain universities like Purdue University that has produced a lot of engineers that have gone on to create some great ideas and some inventions out there. But you don't have to. That's not an impediment. If you don't have a degree in science and technology, engineering, or math, that doesn't mean you can't be an inventor. And in fact, as we're sitting here, I'm thinking, I knew someone that worked at a restaurant, and he came to me one time and he said, "You know what? We have the cloth napkins, and I have to spend an hour every day taking the silverware and wrapping them and rolling them up. Why can't I invent a machine that does that?"
Yeah.
And of course, there was an easy solution to that, is that's what the management has them do to fill in their time. There's no customers there. So when he presented that to management, it didn't go very far. But and he had no college experience at all.
No.
But he had that mindset of, I see a problem, I'm going to devise a solution for it.
And really, you think about all the different trades, but like restaurant or mechanic, how many mechanics come up with tool inventions, and plumbers come up with different ways to plumb stuff, and on, right? So it's all across the board. In every industry, there's room for rolling up utensils, for example, and so forth, just to make life easier, a better place to live.
It is. And, we're talking about the STEM aspect of it today because historically that's where a lot of the inventions come from. And so we're discussing that, but that doesn't mean that the door is not open if you are an 18-year-old sitting at home frustrated because something's not working and you have a solution for it. That can absolutely work. There are some, as we said, specialties like science, technology, engineering, and math that goes along with it. And oftentimes there's some level of education that goes along with it as well. So we see a lot of new inventions coming from people with master's degrees and PhDs.
Yes.
And that's only because the program that they have gone through encourages them to do that, to think of new ideas. It also creates processes for them for problem solving and coming up with those solutions.
And it puts them around with like-minded people too, and all solving problems and figuring it out. So that's good news.
So that might make life a little bit easier, but it certainly should not stop anybody from, if you haven't gone to Harvard or Princeton and or Purdue and received the PhD in engineering, that does not mean that you can't be one of the greatest inventors out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think other things come into play too as well, like geography. We've been mentioning the different universities. I would say there's quite a few innovative hubs, like speaking in the States here. Silicon Valley, for example, Boston, Cambridge, Seattle, San Diego, Austin, different research centers, even you see different cities that are kind of specialized in, say, medical devices or pharmaceuticals or whatever. So there's kind of those hubs, and within those hubs, there's good resources and so forth. So,
one of those resources is often money.
Yeah.
And that's why, Silicon Valley that you mentioned, the Menlo Park area is one of the huge areas for innovation in the United States because 90% of the venture capital firms have offices there.
Yes.
And it does take money to bring ideas to the marketplace.
The money helps. Yeah, and so patent intensity too is quite often around those universities and those R&D centers too. So you're gonna run into different patent attorneys and agents that are out there willing to help you. And quite often, because usually your universities are in the bigger cities and in higher population zones, well, it doesn't exclude you if you're out in rural America or rural Canada. I know plenty of farmers and mechanics and snowplow drivers and and all kinds of stuff that have came up with great inventions. So it's not a limiting factor unless mentally, I guess it is for you. But, the big thing is get your family and your networks and surround yourself by the right folks, I guess, is what I'd like to say on that.
Yeah. There are a lot of first-time inventors. In fact, every inventor is a first-time inventor because you have to have your first time, right? So that is good. And oftentimes there are serial inventors, and sometimes there are just the one-time inventors who are very successful and they don't need to invent anything else. They created their solution, they bring it to the marketplace, and they're making a lot of money from it. And that is good. A lot of times, as we said, those are STEM-oriented inventions. Mm-hmm. They're ideas related to something, involving the STEM aspects, but not always. Not always. As we, our example with the silverware and the, I mean, if you think about that, though, that could be an engineering. Yeah. It could be related to engineering a little bit. There are some socioeconomic and demographic characteristics that can boost some people to be an inventor, but like we said, it doesn't prohibit you from any. But upper class families, the top 1%, oftentimes the conversation around the dinner table, the resources, the ability to go to museums and see different things, to go to a better university, maybe as opposed to a community college or something like that, provides a different perspective and network of individuals.
Yes.
And that helps.
Yeah.
Not being exposed to all of those prohibits you, but it does add to the ability. And unfortunately, we have a lot of lost Einsteins out there, people with great ideas, but they've not gone to the Ivy League schools. They've never been introduced to an investor. The family discussion has never been around, problem solution, new ideas and thoughts. And as a result, they don't think of new ideas.
But now they have us.
And we will listen to your ideas, and we'll present them on our show, and we'll talk about them even.
Absolutely. Inventors groups too. Yeah, it's kind of a sad state if you really, truly are an inventor, and then you just kind of lose it over time. And I know that often happens. But you got to really see who you are as an inventor. And in the course, we kind of explore that in detail. And it's just so important to know yourself, right? Like it's nice to know the general makeup of the demographic of the normal inventor or the typical inventor in the US or Canada or whatever, but it's so much more important to know yourself.
Yeah.
It's a great idea to consider the other inventors, but I would say to consider them on the level of fellow sojourners. It's a journey, right? And I would highly suggest, rather than looking at them as competition, because so many people do, like, oh, you're an inventor, I'm an inventor, we're in competition. I would encourage people to say, no, that's not really how it is. We should be working together on the things that we can.
Yeah, we often use the word collaborate quite a bit, and we're very big on collaboration because most inventors start out as a one-person entity with an idea, and as one person, you don't have the skills that you need. You don't have the mindset, the knowledge to get you all the way through the process like we have in our course. You don't know how to do a business plan. You've never
think about it as if it's a one-man band. That's really what it is. So you're going to be good on drums. You're going to be good on guitar. You're going to be good on singing. Like, probably right. Not, right?
And you find your weakness and where you need to collaborate. So like you and I, you're very good on the patent stuff. I'm good on the business side. You collaborate in order to do that. And that helps you grow your invention idea exponentially instead of incrementally.
Yes.
So that's very important to be able to do that. So everybody has a good idea, regardless of your demographics or your socio-demographics that we've talked about. Don't let those limit you, because you can have an idea and meet one person at an inventors group, for example, who will say, I like you, I like your idea, and I want to help you bring that to market. And that's all you need.
That's right. Yeah. And it's just so important knowing your audience when you're pitching to everybody just kind of naturally after a while. And it's once you meet that right crowd and get that right message across. It's so important. So I think it's very interesting to know the general demographics of the typical inventors. But if you don't fit in that, really all the more reason to work super hard to be successful, right? And I would say be competitive, but like have that knowledge and experience sharing spirit. Don't be greedy. Don't be trying to hide the eight ball. Just be out there and getting help and giving help, right?
Yeah, and it's, at some point in time along your journey, demographics will become a general topic of discussion because you will address it again when you're trying to figure out who might buy this idea that I have.
Yeah, there'd be a demographic for the investors, right?
You'll have one for the investors, one for your team members, one for your potential customers that are out there. That socio-demographic topic will come up again in your journey, that's for sure. So we hope you've enjoyed our discussion today. We want to also remind everybody that you are an inventor. There's an inventor inside you. Don't be confined to the box of the socio-demographic world that is out there. Step outside the box and be successful. If you need help doing that, we have a program at the inventorsarena.com that can do that. We also encourage everybody to find a local inventors group, and we have a chart of all of those, a map on the bottom of our website that will help everybody. And if you've enjoyed our content and you have more ideas, share those with us. We would be glad to center a show around those. We'll collaborate with you. And we hope that you've enjoyed this and that you would like and subscribe to our channel.
Excellent. Now go be a great collaborator.
The Inventors.